Hi. Woo! All right. Let's do this thing. I'm going to share this on, hi, Alicia. I'm going to share this on my page. Hi, Peter. Hold, please. I've only done this like once, twice. Plus, I'm like all back in my feelings on Facebook. My soul has been on fire today. Ooh-wee. How are you? Peter, where do you live? What part of the world are you in? Why am I not showing up? I'm trying to share this on my own Facebook page, like my personal page. So I'm a pretty chill person, but one of the things that really, really gets me is technology, like technology issues. Ah, that's me. Technology stuff can get me so irritated. What's up, Melks? How you doing, brother? Holy cow, this is super annoying. I've practiced this. Share this video. What's up, Melks? How you doing, brother? Do y'all hear me in stereo? That's annoying. All right, well, I'll figure this out later. So how is everyone? Are y'all doing well? Do you guys have any questions for me? How do you feel about boundaries, time management? Do you guys struggle with that kind of conversation? I like to think that it's something that I'm better at than I think that I am. Alicia, do you do well with that kind of thing? Are you super good at planning your work and then executing the plan that you made? I am not. Things that get me off, what I've realized in terms of the boundaries conversation, is the creative stuff, the things that get me fired up. So the stuff that I really love, the conversations about coaching and transformation and this work that I get to do. And when it's in a creative space, and when I've been in like my feelings, when I've been writing or when I've been speaking or creating, those moments, I find it super hard for me to honor any of the boundaries that I've set up or put into place. So I want to start this. Alicia, that's real. What's up, Val? What's up, Brittany? Hi, AJ. I've been late every day this week because I haven't been organized enough. Yeah, I get that. What would be more organized, Alicia? Like, how would you go about that? What would more organized look like? All right, I'm back fully. I just shared this to my Facebook page. What would more organized look like for you? I feel like for me, and I purposely, so there's two reasons that I did this. So I want you to feel you can certainly ask me anything. If you have a question about anything at all, your dog, food, drinks, coaching, transformation, writing, anything at all. I really don't care. Ask me anything. But I wanted to put a little bit of boundary, which is what I want to talk about today, around this conversation, because I used to wait tables at the Cheesecake Factory. I used to wait tables at the Cheesecake Factory, and inside of that, I would hear from people all the time that the menu was super big. And because the menu was super big, a lot of times people would have would have a problem figuring out what they want. So I wanted to put boundaries around this conversation today with the time management, the boundaries, the people pleasing, because I think if we can give you guys something to engage with more specifically, you might find it easier to connect and ask questions, but I don't want you to feel like, you can't ask me anything. So I'm waiting to hear back from you, Alicia. There we go. Okay, awesome. I wake up at 6 a.m., if not earlier, every single day. I enjoy my quiet time more than I enjoy getting ready. Yeah. So something that can anybody relate to that? What Alicia's saying here? That she has, whether for you it's quiet time or maybe it's working out, something that you enjoy more than you enjoy getting ready. And then she's rushing out the door unorganized. I do a similar version of that with my own stuff. And something that I did, something brilliant actually that my coach recommended that I do, was create buffer time. So have you ever done that, Alicia? Have you ever put in like extra buffer time around activities, knowing this about yourself, knowing that you run long, knowing that you have this quiet time that you enjoy? For me, creating that extra space in my schedule, in my calendar, made a huge difference for me. I even did that. For example, today I had a call that my last client call ended before this live, ended at 2 o'clock. And then I gave myself that hour because I knew there was just gonna be stuff that I would want to do and I would want to eat and get my thoughts together, make sure my computer is plugged in, all of that good stuff before the call. And I've started creating, especially around times that I am writing, or even times with clients, putting in the extra buffer space, knowing that I might go a little bit long. Let me know if that's anything that you've ever tried. That's what waking up at 6 a.m. was supposed to do. Yeah, heard. The other thing that I did for me is I stopped trying to have some kind of specific morning routine. Here's what I mean by that. I think there are a lot of really cool people out there who have a lot of really awesome ideas in terms of crafting like the perfect way to start your day. And I know a lot of people that I speak to really love the miracle morning. And they have this desire to like wake up or journal or, read, meditate. And I think all of that is wonderful, but we also have to find, I think, what resonates with us and what does our soul good. Like, I really feel like that is super important. And so many of us are looking for someone else to tell us the thing that is going to serve us the best, because gosh, there could be countless reasons why, because we're afraid of getting something wrong, because we don't want to pick the wrong thing, because if it doesn't work out, we don't want to hold our own selves responsible and beat ourselves up for the poor choice that we made. So my invitation to you in this would be, if you enjoy your quiet time, and the waking up at 6 is amazing, maybe ask yourself inside of the quiet time, what is it about this time that I love so much? Why am I pretending that I can't get this anywhere else in my day? I think, and Alicia, let me know if this resonates with you, what just came to me in this moment is I think for me, when I'm in that space of I can't stop, right? Like I can't stop. I love this so much. I want to be in this so much. Whatever it is, usually for me, it's creating or really, really deep conversations. If you knew me, you would know those are the things that like I crave. I think sometimes it becomes hard to stop when we're telling ourselves that we can't get it again. So if you think about this in the context of eating, right? Like we might binge on a food or binge on a drink if we're telling ourselves, if I don't gobble all of this up now in this moment, when am I going to get it again? Right? Let me know if that resonates. Hey, Jennifer. Awesome. I can get myself to plan tomorrow, tonight. I could enjoy my quiet time and not be rushing. Okay. And is that something you've tried? I mean, does that work for you? For me, and this is where it comes in, where we have to understand that some of these concepts are super great, but we have to test it out because there's not like a one size fits all. There's not a right answer that's going to work for everyone. So for me, let me share with you what I started doing, and I don't always hold to it. What's up with this hair? I tried to message my stylist, by the way, and see if she could get me in. She's booked. Joy, do you see this craziness? That's my hair right now. So something that worked for me, I put myself on a 30-day yoga consistency challenge, which has been going on, I think, for 2 weeks, and I just did day 7 today. So there's been many days inside of this consistency challenge that I have missed. But what I did is I went in and I blocked out time on my calendar to do, like to practice the yoga, right? I made space for it, which I think is one of the first steps that are really important. I've talked about this before. So many of us have to-do lists that are massive, right? Like, I mean, this is, right, I have a to-do list. So many of us have that. But then if you look at our calendars, we don't have anything that's on the to-do list. We don't actually have inside of our calendar. Now, I don't know about you, but if you're out there listening to this and you're an entrepreneur, I pretty much think we could be busy and in the weeds, which is like a restaurant term, but I think we could be busy and in the weeds all the time. Like there's always something to do. There's always somebody we could say yes to, always a phone call we could take. There's always an email, a special, a text, something that we could be doing. And if we do not create the time in our calendars to do those things, and then we put other things in because somebody says yes, somebody asks if they can talk to us, and we just say yes, and then we get irritated at them because the thing that we want to do isn't getting done, and then we go into our active service with them, we go into helping them, we go into conversation with them with our own irritation. We're projecting our own lack of integrity with our boundaries onto them, and all of a sudden we've made them an irritation when they didn't ask for that, right? So the first step for me is I'm clearing the space in the calendar. And if, Alicia, it works for you, then the next question is, so why aren't you doing it, right? And there's not, and inside of that is not to judge or beat up self. It's like for me to ask, okay, if this is something that works, why am I not doing it? And a lot of times I think that a lot of times we don't have the things that work. We don't actually have them like written out. We don't have clarity around what our own personal recipe for success is. So for you, Alicia, if doing this at night is something that is important to you, then use your cell phone. These things have so much technology that we actually don't utilize in any way, right? Set alarms, set reminders, and say, hey, I'm going to take this 15 minutes and I'm going to map out my day for tomorrow. But I really encourage you inside of that, give yourself some wiggle room for the unexpected, especially for, I mean, I think any human, but if you've got other humans that are involved, especially tiny ones, you know, those of us that have tiny humans that we are responsible for, we need some extra wiggle room for the unexpected. I mean, there's always going to be something that comes up that has the potential to derail us. And I think that if we can hold on to our intentions with the high intention, low attachment to it going this exact way, I think that gives us a little bit of freedom inside of that. And yeah, Alicia, that's real. All the time getting irritated for saying yes to someone else. My friend Michelle Lane actually sent me, posted on a post that I made yesterday, I think. And she said, what do I say yes to? This was her question. What do I say yes to when I really mean no? Have you guys ever done that? Said yes to something when you really meant to say no? So I think we always do what we want to do. One of my dear friends, Charcy, says, let people do what they want to do and you'll see what they'd rather do. And the first time I heard her say that, I was like, dang, that was so real. And most things, when I hear them, I turn them inward, right? So my initial thought is like, how does this apply to me? Let me do what I want to do, and then we'll see what I would rather do. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it is actually a really important indicator of where our passion lies. I think that it's I remember I used to spend so much time trying to figure out, like intellectually figure out what my passion, like what's my passion? I gotta figure out my purpose. And I think one of the simplest ways to do that is see what you'd rather do. Where would you rather spend your time? So Alicia, I think for you, digging into what is it that I really enjoy about the quiet time? Like what is it inside of that you love, that lights you up? I think that's a really important guidepost for you in terms of just purpose and continued inspiration and creativity. So back to Michelle's question, I do wonder in this moment, I think we say yes to the things that we want to say yes to. We might wish that we had a different response. We might wish that we said no, but I think we say yes to what we want to say yes to. So for me, inside of all of this, it's so much awareness. So can we become observational with our own self without being judgmental, right? So for me, I used to say yes to any task that, especially people that I loved and respected, and that I wanted to love and respect me. I'll just be real there. That's probably more, right? The people that I wanted to gain approval from. I would say yes to any of their requests, which certainly got me into some sticky situations and had me experiencing a lot of overwhelm. So I don't know that now I necessarily say yes when I really mean no. This is actually a conversation that I've had before that I'm probably going to do a video just around how to say no, which even as that comes out of my mouth seems like an insane, like, do we really need help with that? But I think a lot of us do. Let me know if that's something that you would be interested in hearing about. I think for so many of us, we think that we have to say yes for approval, and that shows up in so many ways. Jennifer, I want to read this comment. So easily I get distracted by someone else's needs. I choose to do it, and the inner me wants the distraction, but the mind knows I'm supposed to do the one thing I never get done. So when we say things, and Jennifer, I'm gonna, do I have your permission to kind of pick this apart? I need to determine my best yes. Amen. Jennifer, let me know if I have your okay. I'm going to start and you tell me shut up if you don't want me to keep going. So easily to get distracted. So with permission to be real, inside of language like that, when we talk about my kids distracted me, my husband distracted me, awesome, thank you, Jennifer. We're putting ourselves in that moment as like we have cast ourselves, we've taken ourselves and we put ourselves in the role of the victim of that thing, right? That thing distracted me, that thing over there, it did that to me. And it's really challenging to be empowered if we are a victim, and especially to things that we don't have any control over, because then we end up just being pulled like we're on like a water skis, right? Wherever this thing out there takes us, then we end up being just pulled along in that. And so a question that I have learned to ask is, how am I inviting distraction? How am I inviting this in? So instead of this thing is distracting me, how have I let myself open for distraction? I mean, let's be real. How many of you are, if you're on your computer, how many of you have like at least 5, probably more different tabs open? You know, we say that we're going to concentrate on phone calls or send emails out or spend some time writing or creating, and yet our phones are on, notifications are on, we have the volume not muted on our computer, we have all of the tabs open. And I mean, we have become trained like Pavlov's dog, right? Where we see the little, or we hear the little ding, or the light goes off, or we see the little notification, and we're pulled that way. My coach talks about, and I agree completely, that attention is the most sacred of resources, right? So we are so easily distractible, and then we invite it in, right? And so you said here, which was beautiful, I choose to do it, which is awesome. There has to be an ownership of the things that are happening. So recognize that this thing is presented to you. You make the choice to go do it. Now, you said the inner me wants the distraction. So here, my question to you would be very similar to what I asked Alicia. What is inside of that distraction? And usually, I would say usually there's 2 ways this could go. It's either because there's something inside the distraction that's pulling you, right? There's a desire that you're being pulled toward, or you're running away from the other thing. And that's more of a, that's a personal conversation, which I'm happy to have on this platform, but it's a personal, meaning personal to you conversation, and it's not always going to be the same. So we have to look at something that I learned from a very brilliant woman, Margie Aliprandi, is the concept of what's the come from. I don't necessarily believe that any activity or choice that we make is definitively bad or good, but what's the reason behind it? Like, what's underneath it? What's that come from? And then my other question to you specifically, Jennifer, would be, what does your heart want? What are the desires inside of, not your head? Because so many times this is plagued with have tos, need tos, should, beliefs, desires, goals that other people have given us, and we've just put on like a cardigan, right? Like we're just wearing things that aren't actually even ours. And so really getting connected with what you want clearly, your heart, not your head, your heart, so important. So important. Let me read some of these comments. 5 tabs open will be a good day. Heard. How am I opening myself up for distraction, right? Yeah, I'm running away from the fear of rejection in my calls or appointments. Can anybody relate to that? Anybody have a business where you speak to people and you're running away from the fear of rejection inside of those? Or is that just Jennifer? Is she alone in this? Yeah, that's real. Thank you for sharing that. Running away from the fear of rejection in my calls or appointments. So there's so much inside of that, my friend. So do you feel like they're rejecting you? Yeah, I hear you. Been there. Thanks, Laquetta. How are you, my friend? When our enoughness and our personal value is at risk, when we've attached our self-worth to the sounds that are made out of the mouth of another human, we're going to be paralyzed. Especially inside of a business. Yeah, I take it personally. Thank you for being so real, my friend. I think a lot of people, whether they admit it or not, can relate to that. And that is challenging inside of a business, like the one that you're in, where we are going to hear more, we're going to hear more no than we hear yes. So if our approval is, if our approval is attached, if our sense of worth is attached to their approval, we are, it's dangerous. It's really dangerous because it's unstable, and that makes us unstable. And then we get in our head and we start trying to control and analyze the responses and predict the responses that are going to come out of their mouth before they come out. Like we start to have like pre-conversations in our head Has anyone ever done that? Like where you're just like playing it out in your head? Like, okay, so I would say this and then she'll say this. And I think that they'll say yes to me. So then they feel safe. And then we put ourselves out there, but only in like a safe way because we're still trying to protect, right? So it's like we have this, like, here's the armor. And so like, we'll let them get like here, but not come all the way in. And it's just, Jennifer, the key in this conversation with you, which is bigger than just here now today on this live, is we have to, and I mentioned this actually on the one I did last week, we have to strengthen our internal self so that what other people say, it doesn't have any power. Because Alicia reminded me this morning of one of my very favorite quotes, is an African proverb, and it says, when there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do no harm. So the other piece in the rejection, in your calls and in your appointments, it's not so much the fear of the actual rejection. It's about what you're going to say to you and with you after the rejection has taken place. I mean, that's the bigger conversation. Mary Beth, I distract myself due to fear of believing I don't know enough. Yeah, it's safe to be a lifelong student. I did that for years. It's a sexy way of hiding, right? I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Not quite yet. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. But all of our fears, it's just our ego, it's our intellect, neither of which I think are in and of themselves bad. It's protection. But all of our fears lie in that space, right? What are they going to think of me? How are they going to receive me? When we are connected to our heart and from that place really connected to showing up in service and making a genuine offer for someone else without the attachment of, like, without attaching their answer to our worthiness, then it becomes so much easier to serve and to show up. And I've been on both sides and I still go back and forth, right? Like, so the biggest shift for me with all of this was to stop thinking about myself so much and start thinking about the people who needed me. To recognize that there are people who are out there who are literally dying, waiting to hear the words that would come out of my mouth, out of your mouth, friend, and you're worried about if you sound good or look good or how whatever is going to be received, or if we're prepared or not prepared. And it took me a while to get there, so I don't know, maybe somebody could just flip the switch immediately. It was definitely a process for me, but it is possible. There is hope. You can detach your person who you be, your enoughness, from your performance and what you do. And when you can do that, it becomes so much easier to ask, because even then, if they say no, Okay, whatever, because you're good, because you got you, and you're not sourcing your strength and your enoughness from their validation and approval. Yeah. I mean, it's just, you're never going to be ready enough, right, Mary Beth? Like, you're never going to. I talk about this in my book, that the finish line, right, of perfection, of ready, it's always moving. It's like floating, right? So it'd be one thing if it was definitive. If you said, okay, once I study X, Y, or Z, right? Once I finish this, once I take this one thing, I'm good. And I tell clients all the time, if you're my client listening to this right now, let me know if you've ever heard me say some version of, if you can tell me when that'll be over, right? If you can tell me when that'll be done, when you'll be enough, worthy, valid, perfect, good, ready, I'll let you keep it. Like, I'll let you hold on to that if you can tell me when the end date will be, or what the requirements are specifically. But the problem is that they're not, they don't exist. It's vague and it's fuzzy and it's never ending and it's never enough, right? Because if we get to this one like mile marker, this one point, then there's one more thing we have to learn. And it's, my coach, Sean, calls it an addiction to addition. Right? There has to be more. There has to be one more thing I have to learn, one more pound I have to lose, one more class I have to take. I couldn't possibly be enough or know the answer, so let me Google one more hostess program, or look at one more script, or one more other person's way. And we're constantly looking outward, looking to, how can I make this shell, this protection, how can I make this better, when in reality the whole thing needs to burn down, and we need to be our authentic true selves, because from that place, that's all love, and there's no need for any of the bullshit, pardon my language if that offends you, but none of the bullshit that we are like pretending is what's going to make us more appealing to other people, when it's actually it separates. So you got to go in. Stop looking out. No one else has your answers. Yeah. Protecting myself from I don't even know, right? It's the unknown. If you could just give yourself, all of us, right? But if we could just give ourselves permission to try. And not beat ourselves up. I want to say all of our fears would go away. Right? So Mary Beth, for you, you know, the fear of success is that's a real thing for almost everyone. And the fear of the unknown, right? Like, well, what will happen? I need to know, I need to have the answers. I need to understand like what the path's going to look like, and how exactly it's all going to come together, and how exactly everything's going to play out. And from my experience, the more control we are seeking externally, the more out of control we feel internally. And so the more scary it is to try, right? I knew I wanted to make a career change. Like I knew, like deep, real, authentic knowing that I wanted to make a career change over a year before I actually did anything, because of what you just commented, Mary Beth, because the fear of the unknown. There's a quote that I heard many years ago that says, when the pain of change becomes less than the pain of staying the same, we will change. And not a moment sooner. And most of us don't have, we've gotten so comfortable in our settledness. We've gotten so used to our pain. We've gotten just snuggled inside our comfort zone that we don't even realize the costs associated with staying there. And I think if we want to really make that transformation, that shift that we talk about, if we really want to do it, then what becomes necessary is for us to turn up the light on the costs, the consequences of staying. One of my very favorite lines, and it has been for years, in The Invitation by Orion Mountain Dreamer, which is a beautiful poem. If you've never read it, you could Google The Invitation, Orion Mountain Dreamer. But it speaks about being willing to disappoint another to be true to your own soul. So for those of you that really resonated with the people-pleasing conversation, we say, no, I'm running around and I'm saying yes to everybody else. Where do you fit in on that? And the reality is, if you continue down that path, you cannot pretend that your soul is not dying. I posted earlier today, your dreams unchased become your soul's nightmares, right? The nightmares of your soul. Yeah, Jennifer, the need for validation. I am absolutely a recovering attention addict, because for me that meant approval, and that approval meant that you loved me, and that love, that meant I was like enough, right? Validated, like stamped, worthy. The problem with that is that when we do that, one person is never enough. So we get it from this person here, but then we got to get it from this person here, and then we got to get it from the next person, and then we got to get it from the next person, because the hole is on the inside. The void is on the inside. So nothing that we do externally has the power to, like, trying to put a Band-Aid on a torn blood vessel, right? I don't know if that's medically accurate, but I hope you get the imagery. Oh, Mary Beth, yay. Gotten comfortable not putting myself out there and hiding. Yeah, so a question that I'm sure other people can relate to this. And if you can, maybe comment or like or heart or whatever you want to do, or stay quiet. That's cool too. I respect that. But gotten comfortable not putting myself out there and hiding, that's real. And it feels safe. And a question to ask, Mary Beth, is who's not being served in that? Right? Who's waiting to hear what you have to say that's not hearing from you because you're comfortable in there? And are you really comfortable? That's the other question. You know, you could put on a big old winter parka. So you got your big winter parka on and you're walking around the world, and say you put it on in May. And at first it feels hot, right? Because you don't need a winter parka in May in most parts of the world. But after a while, you just get used to it. You get used to the weight. Your body kind of acclimates to the temperature. And by the time August comes, you probably don't even realize that you're wearing the coat anymore. And so much of the impact of these things cannot be felt until we take them off. So many of us have been carrying around so much for so many years. We don't even realize how heavy it is until we set it down and we feel how light we can actually be. Well, this went in a totally different direction than I thought it would be today. Ooh. Yeah, Martinet, who are we not serving? I get disappointed over and over by those I put so much into, and my husband says, yeah, so I am not as familiar with this, but I did a thing with a friend of mine that kind of spoke about the Enneagram. And when we love to receive, that love is not pure. Yeah, so if we're giving because we're hoping that one day we're going to get ours, right? We're going to get what's due to us. That's not pure. And oh my gosh, Jennifer, the very first time that I heard that, and it's written in my journal, the very first time I ever heard that, it took my breath away because I was like, oh, like I do that, right? I had been loving and serving, but doing it from a place of believing that I would get mine back, like I would get it in return. And, you know, disappointment, right, Alicia? It like, it hurt my feelings. I'll be real. I was like, excuse me. And then it really, like, I let it land with me because I recognized that's what was happening. Like I was loving with expectation. And the only way, and this is another concept that truly did change the way I thought about things in my life. The only way disappointment can be created is if we have unmet expectations. So inside of what you shared, Jennifer, what were you expecting that you didn't get? Because that's the only way that disappointment can live. And that brings back the high intention, low attachment conversation, right? You can only be disappointed if somebody doesn't join your business or buy something that you're selling if you expected that they would. If you don't have any expectations, it doesn't, like disappointment it literally cannot live. And there's a balance, like a finesse between, okay, then how do I have goals and desires and things that I want, but not the expectation? And that's where we have to learn to detach, right? Loving with expectation, right? Whoo! And how much of that do we put on our own self, right? Like how much of that do we do we turn then inward on our own self, right? Loving yourself, but with expectation. Like, I love you if you, I love you when we're talking to our own self. And if that's how we're having conversations with us, then that's absolutely how we're going to show up in the world as well. This felt deep. Y'all, I cried a couple times. That was real. Oh, we're coming up on the hour. Does anybody have any questions? This time went fast. Did it feel, for those of you that have been on, and a lot of you have been on the whole time, which is pretty dope. Thank you for that and for your engagement and for this conversation. Does anybody have any questions, anything they want or need to feel complete? I'm not going anywhere. I will be back. Hang on. I think I have, hold please. I think I said I'm going to be out of town next week on Thursday. That's an alarm for a phone call. You got to use technology for your benefit. Here, I believe I said Friday next week. Friday the 8th. Yeah, we're going to do a new time. 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, Friday, March 8th. That's when we'll be here next week. That's when it fits into my schedule. I think I'm going to try to do Thursdays consistently, but next week I'm actually going to be in California. On Thursday, I'll be coming back home, and that time did not work for me. So let's look. So fast, right? Like, I really looked up. I was like, holy cow, that was an alarm for a phone call that I have. Wow, I get it now. Damn. Oh, Martinet, you're welcome. Yeah, you guys too. Thank you for co-creating this conversation. I really appreciate it. I pray it serves, you know. We're meant to be connected. We're not meant to do this thing alone. And if there is anything that I can do to support you individually, if you have my number, text me. If you're here, we're friends on Facebook, so send me a message and let's set up a time to talk, because this is real. This is real, and we are all humans on this human journey. And while we can have these conversations that I love, this is the stuff that geeks me out and keeps me so excited and engaged. We need the personal touch for our own self, right? Because we all have our own stuff. Love the topic. Okay, awesome. Good deal. You're welcome. I think it was so funny too, because we really didn't talk that much about the boundaries conversation. And yeah, the pain is bigger than the change. So let's end with that. It really, one of my very favorite stories is that there was a man who was running, and he was running through a neighborhood, and he ran by this house that had an old man sitting on the porch, and the man ran by, but he heard this like weird, like noise, and like the guy ran past, kind of heard it, and was so disturbed by it that he turned back around. And so he realized that it was coming from the porch where the old man was sitting. And so as the guy kind of backed himself up, he realized that the dog that was laying on the porch next to the man was making this like wretched, like painful howling noise. And the runner asked the man on the porch, "What is wrong with your dog? He sounds like he's really seriously hurt." And just real casually, the man on the porch said, "Oh, him? He's just sitting on a nail." And the runner was like, have you, like, get your dog off the nail. Oh my gosh, like, he's in pain. That's serious. Like, help him up. And the man said, "It's obviously not hurting him badly enough, or he'd move." Friend, if you really want to make a change in your life, you got to turn up the volume on what it is costing you to stay where you are. Because your intellect will absolutely seduce you into the comfort of the zone that you're in right now. So I pray that this serves you. Hi, Amanda. If you have any questions for me, please, please, please message me next Friday. I think I said 12:30, but I'll post it so that you know. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to keep this going, and you can message me. I'd love to chat. I love this conversation. Thank you for everybody that is watching live. If you're here on the replay and you have questions, please comment. I promise I will go in. I will engage. If you think that this conversation would benefit somebody else, share the video. And I love you, and I appreciate you being here and showing up for you. Be well, my friends, and we will talk soon. Okay, bye now.